Before we open up to some more questions, I have one, and I want to ask, gosh, I forgot my question, what was it? Oh, let's say, okay, I have a home to sell, high price, luxury home. I'm a marketing executive with XYZ company. So I already think I know a lot. I already know a lot about marketing. I know a lot about everything because, I'm a smart guy. You ever run into those people, and how do you deal with them? The lawyers, I know because my brother's one, I would never list his house because he knows more than everybody. So go ahead and tell us about how you deal with somebody like that.
So bringing up attorneys, I have two in my family, my son and daughter-in-law. That is a great experience trying to sell them a home. So, answers to the question. So basically, what you want to make sure is when you are dealing with this clientele, they do know everything. What they don't know, 9 times out of 10, is real estate. But they will fluff their way through it because as intelligent as they are to be in the position that they're in, they do believe that they are going to outshine you. It's not a competition for one. So please don't turn it into that when they start, and basically you can almost call it an interrogation is how they're going to talk to you. You keep smiling, you show your confidence, and you talk to them about real estate. A marketing executive is going to know the ins and outs on how to market and how to sell. The difference is they don't know how to market and sell real estate as we do. That is what you have to concentrate on. Concentrate on what the market time is. Concentrate how we move homes and how quickly we move homes. Now, also in this price range, what you need to understand is this is not the house that's going to sell overnight. You're not going to sell it under 30 days. You might be on the market for a year. You might be on the market for longer than that. You might be having extensions, and you better be pretty good if you want to ask for an extension. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, or one day.
All right, well, that was great marketing. So you can sell a house on the lake in about 35 minutes. That's great marketing.
That was
those are the tools that Russell has given us. So we're talking about a property that I have listed on Lake Road with Jeff Russell. And I put that in, and with everything we had done, we were able to sell that house. I put it in the MLS, uploaded it in, made sure Realtor.com, Zillow, our website, everything was there. We had professional pictures taken. The verbiage was just on target, and I got a call from a gentleman out of state and said, do not sell that house to anyone else, send me the contracts. He bought that house sight unseen.
Wow.
So, it does not happen all
Guessing
the
for what
time.
they wanted, correct?
It does not happen all the time. As a matter of fact, Jeff did not believe me when I told him I was writing a contract. So, but it can happen. And this is where, when you are dealing with the clientele of this price range, you have to remember when you are servicing them in marketing, you have to continue to talk about the real estate, okay? How we sell homes. They can sell everything else under the sun. They still don't know how to sell homes. And the proven fact is when we sit down with the CMA and discuss market time with them, and we discuss what it's going to take on their part, reassuring them that they have the complete control, all we do is we are the messenger. Okay? So basically they have the control to list that home at the correct price. They have the control to condition that property for it to sell at the price we're looking at, and they have the control to make any adjustments that we suggest. They need to always know, and believe me, you want to inflate their head because that's what they're used to being in the position that they're in. Reminding them that they are in control is fantastic. The thing that you have to remember is you have to stay in control. You have to control the conversations. You have to control what happens on a day-to-day basis with the listing, and you have to relay that back to your client. So they have the control on what happens. You have to take control on how it happens, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you're dealing with some pretty good egos here, so you can't, make them wrong, or you just, like you said, inflate them. Do you have something to add, Audrey, on that?
I think it's not only the ego, so it is keeping the focus on real estate and reminding them that that's where your expertise is. There's a lot that goes into these homes. this client is different than anyone you're ever going to run across. In addition to their egos, there's oftentimes a lot of pride in these luxury homes. This is their dream home. They built this. So going in there and maintaining your professionalism and telling them that the leopard velvet wallpaper in the 3,000 square foot master bath isn't appealing in today's market or isn't going to appeal to their target buyer is sometimes a hard thing that you have to say, but you are the professional, so that's where you maintain your expertise with them and you share with them with facts, just like Jody said, you know that market time, you know who their target buyer is. This isn't the listing that you want to take for 6 months. You want to take a 1-year listing probably, because if you go through, you'd probably be surprised. I had a client who was a broker in California who flew in and I was working with as a buyer. And he wanted a 15-year price trend for a particular area in Sugar and Falls. And I was shocked as a newer luxury agent at how few homes sell in that price range in Northeast Ohio. So that obviously was helpful to me on the listing side because I knew that. And that's something that you have to tell these people. The other, I think, surprising fact about luxury listings is that oftentimes they sell for less than they were ever built for.
Yeah, that's a
It's
good point.
actually pretty common.
Yeah.
So you
They
have
don't
a
like to hear
seller who spent $4 million, true story, $4 million Tuscan villa in Barrington and Aurora. And he was on the market for less than 3. And he had been on the market for 2 years. His dream home isn't another millionaire's dream home. Because when you're a millionaire, you can build your own dream home. But he wanted to move to California. So we had to sell his dream home in our market in Northeast Ohio. And there were no comps. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I'm dealing with one of those right now in Oak Harbor of all places. I mean, it's the most expensive thing in the city. And that's the thing, they build them where nobody else would build a house like that. Or they're surrounded by homes that are 500,000 less. I'm gonna need this thing. But anyhow,
So that's where you show them your knowledge. You do your homework extensive. This isn't an appointment where you talk to somebody and you go on the appointment tomorrow. This is, you need a few days to really get your self-prepared, get your information together, and go in there with a complete presentation, whether you do 1-step, 2-step, however you do it. You need to make sure you still present yourself as a professional because they are executives, they are attorneys, but you are the real estate expert. She has a question.
question, yes, go ahead.
Yes, back to your statement about not having any comps for a particular home. Without going into great detail, how do you address that with them?
You may have to scour the entire area, not just that particular MLS market, but I had a $1.75 million sale in Aurora, and there were no comps. It was in the Parade of Homes. It was House of the Year for the year it was built, and they had to sell it a year later. There were no comps. So I talked with other builders. Oftentimes builders don't always put their properties in the MLS. When they build, they sell directly to the person who built the home. So I tried to get other contracts to get to a lender. I went outside of, so I was comparing Aurora with, Chagrin Falls, Bainbridge, as well as Rocky River, Westlake, to try to find a comparable apples to apples home to convince this lender to lend on this property.
Do you find yourself maybe having to go back a couple, maybe more than a year? I know you hate to do
They
that.
wouldn't allow
They
us
wouldn't
to
allow
do
that?
that, and unfortunately, this house was a new build, so there was nothing in that market available, but they did allow us to work with the builder to try to find things that weren't in the MLS. So they would look at contracts.
Got it. Yes.
I have a different question
Sure.
about that, but I feel like the reason that I tend to stick with buyers is because even though if, I go to a listing appointment and we can offer everything that Russell offers marketing wise, what's something you can offer like extra, like specifically what do you tell your clients you are going to do for them that no one else is doing? And where would you even start, like HR departments or CEOs, how do you even start to get in touch with those kinds of people?
You can just reach out to them. I mean, if you go on LinkedIn, you can use, some networking sites. You can reach out to your sphere. I mean, do you know somebody who works at the clinic? That's how I reached out to Cleveland Clinic. I knew somebody who worked at the clinic who could get me an HR contact. And that's how I marketed through them. Because I know that they have, their intern class come in every April. So it was a strategy. And that's what I presented to that particular seller.
What are some other things specifically that you're doing to market properties that maybe we haven't thought of or we're not doing?
Luxury properties are very different. So when you show luxury homes, that's how I learned. I learned by what other luxury agents were doing. It's not a typical showing where you're just going and opening a lockbox and you're going to the home with your client. I mean, some of these are 14,000 square foot homes.
Yeah.
It's like they're having a dinner party. It's, the lights are on, the music's on, the fire's going. There's wine, there's cheese, there are refreshments for the buyers. We're greeted by the listing agent. Sometimes it's a team of more than one, the listing agent and their assistant, and they're telling you all about, the features and benefits in this home. And they have to, because these homes have systems that you and I have never seen before. Smart homes where they have, hidden safety rooms, or they have smart TVs that come on behind mirrors. You would never know they're there. These homes have elevators and elaborate air filtration systems, $90,000 golf simulators, theater rooms that, I call my cable company. I don't know how to do these things, but they have technicians who come in and install these things and work on these things to optimize these theater rooms. So it is an experience. This isn't, a 30-minute showing. It's very different. So when you go in, go to the brokers open if you're ever lucky enough to do so. Ryan Young on the east side does quite a few brokers opens. Go to those luxury brokers open and get familiar in that environment so you can talk about what you're going to do differently. From the preparation to the actual listing appointment itself, it is very different. Like, this isn't the listing appointment when you use a book. Listing appointments for these types of homes, you're using a very polished presentation. And their CMA isn't on a piece of paper. Let me get the word there. Their CMA is on my computer. I mean, I have to be as technologically advanced as they are. I have to go in there and give them a presentation like they're used to getting in a boardroom. Same thing when you're going in, to talk to them what you're going to do differently. You're going to look different, you're going to talk different, you're going to sound different, you're going to present differently, and you're going to know what other agents are doing in that sector.
Carmen, thanks for showing up. I know the turnpike was.
I am so sorry.
That's okay.
I was on the road for 2.5 hours, so I do apologize.
Carmen is out of our Catawba office in that market up at Marblehead Lakeside. Just tell us a little bit about how you approach luxury homes in that particular market and how it's maybe different than other markets. I know it's very seasonal, so maybe you might want to give us a little bit of insight on
Sure.
how do you go after a luxury listing?
Sure.
And is there anything different, any trade secrets that you use over in Marblehead that you can share with us that?
Well, first of all, I have not dealt with anything as upscale as what she's talking about. A lot of the homes in our area are second homes for people. They may not be quite as extravagant, not that they're not there, but I haven't seen many that, from listening to you, that are that upscale. Basically, I think the major key is to hang out where the people that live in those homes hang out, dress the part, look the part, drive the car, have your social media up where it needs to be because they're going to check you out. Offer them things like the where they do the layout online, where they can see how the rooms are laid out and everything. Do your virtual tour, do your overhead so they can see where the water is, how they're going to take their boat out from where they live to whatever destinations they want to go to. And mailers, if you're gonna do a mailer in a particular area, if you wanna target those homes, make sure that they are polished, as she said, and that they are as professional as they possibly can be. Your resume needs to be polished. Everything has got to be at the polished level. Your language has to be right. And they're gonna want to pay attention to detail. They're gonna wanna tell you about all their systems. They're gonna wanna tell you about all the details. Take your time with them. And then your buyers are gonna be the same way. I had a buyer on, it was $1.5 million listing. And the guy, when he came in, acted like he didn't want to hear anything that I had to say. So I stepped back and said, can I show you this? And he went, yeah, showed him that. The words, I looked at it as a really bad showing. His attorney called me like 4 days later and said, we want to put an offer in on that house. Okay, great, wonderful.
He already knew more than
He
everybody
had
else.
inside information. A guy that I had been working with on that home in particular was a friend of his, come to find out. And he had told him all the details, everything that, and he had made an offer on it. Told him what he had offered, and I didn't know this going into it, but then I found out. And so you may have to deal with attorneys. Even though I was a dual agent on that sale, I didn't deal with that buyer at all. I dealt strictly with his attorney or his attorney's assistant. So, that can be deceiving. If they don't want to talk to you, that's okay. Just give them all the information and be as knowledgeable as you possibly can. Knowledge is the key. Stand up tall when you talk. Make sure you know what you're talking about. And just let them know that you know your business. Yes?
Go ahead.
Based on that same note, what if it's a seller who really doesn't want to hear what you have to say because they know everything and they know what they want to list their house for, even though you did all your homework and you felt that it was extremely overpriced at that price point? How would you deal with them? And you're talking about a type A personality who says immediately, oh, I don't give a crap what you have to say in all those papers and what you're gonna say.
Then I would say, just be honest.
I know what my house is worth, and this is, if you don't want the listing, then don't take the listing. How do you address an individual like that?
Well, what I would do is just be completely honest with him and tell him that I'm here to do a good job for you. I'm just being honest. These are the facts that we have, and I would love to get that price for you. That would be absolutely glorious. You would make more money and so would I. But this is what it tells me. Now, would I take that listing? It depends on where it is. If it's in a great spot where I'm going to get great calls, I'm going to take that listing and just tell him, don't be angry with me if we don't get showings. First of all, they're going to see you online on my virtual tour. So the first showing is not when they come through your door. The first showing is online when they go online and they see that virtual tour, the overheads or whatever you have out there. If, since I've told you I've done my job, I've studied these comps for 2 hours, at least, I know the area, I know my market, and you just have to let them know that you are knowledgeable and you know what you're talking about. If you want to take that listing, then you can say, you know what, I understand how you feel. If you want to list it at that, let's do it. Let's see what happens. We'll make sure that we do all of our marketing. We have everything out there just as I would any other, I would tell them, just like I would anyone else. But if we don't have the showings, please don't be angry with me. And then let's get together and talk again.
Or don't be afraid to walk away from them.
Or walk away if you want.
Go ahead.
So talking about the resume and winning the interview, so being a newer agent and having a retail management sales background, is it relevant or appropriate to tell them, like building, because if I don't have a lot of sales with real estate, is it appropriate and relative to work that into my resume to promote myself for a luxury home?
Absolutely. So I have a retail management background. I was a regional sales manager for 20 years, and we're managing a process. We're managing sales. So again, it's all about talking about your professionalism and your experience and your knowledge. That should be part of.
Yeah, if you had a good, successful career for 20 years doing something in sales or marketing, by all means, you know.
This
use that
is
to
just
your
a different widget,
Right.
you know, a higher maintenance client.
Right.
Higher caliber, more
Right.
maintenance,
But it's still a widget, it's still a house.
very structured.
Go ahead, right here.
You were talking about, one of the things I was wondering about, I have a house that, not 900 million, but anyway, it's, how do you reach out to the HR departments? Because I think I know exactly kind of what type of buyer would be purchasing this house, so do you just send out letters to HR departments?
I have a contact, so I email them and say, hey, I've got this, everything is perfect for this.
Right.
Could you get this out in front of them? And sometimes they ask me to like bring in some brochures, you know, and the brochures for these homes are not what you
Yeah.
print out at home. I
Right.
mean, you're actually getting, you're getting glossy, you know, professional books
Right.
prepared at a print shop.
But
you know?
so you don't just send out letters to HR departments all over the place?
No,
and
I
hope
will
that-
email them about upcoming inventory depending on, so if we're talking interns and, you know, what price
Right.
range versus who I think, you know, this is going to be for.
Go ahead.
So talking about, preparing and getting the correct marketing to present to them, like how much time, like do you do a one-step or two-step listing, or how much time does that take you to prepare for something like that?
I do a one-step listing, everybody's got their own style, but I do a lot of homework before. So I am not gonna meet with somebody probably for a week before I actually go and do my listing presentation. And I'm gonna assume that I'm walking away with that listing. So I've got everything done, including my listing documents prepared and just ready for them to sign.
Their
Go ahead.
time, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Their time is extremely precious and you need to treat it that way. So as Audrey's talking about a one-step listing, always contemplate that that's how you're gonna handle them. They do not have time for you to continue to come back to bring them more information, more information, more information. They want you on task and on cue. So take everything that you have, and when we're talking about the materials that you're going to get, and Audrey said this is not something you're printing from Cloud CMA and you're not taking it from the MLS and putting it in front of them. Especially when you do get the listing and you want to put a nice presentation together to give to any buyer that should come through. This is a booklet. So when we're not talking about 1 or 2 pages, we are talking about a booklet. Detailed information on that property, pictures, bullet points, when the house was built, how it was constructed, all the way back to the minute point of, when they broke ground. This is extremely important because it's very important to the seller. You need to ask that seller, what are your pros and cons about this house? You need to use those in your presentation as well. You're also going to include the dynamics of the community. If that is a high golf course community, for instance, you need to know everything about the golf course, the fees, the memberships, exactly. You need to know if there's a clubhouse, what is entailed in that clubhouse. You need to even ask them, if you have time, can you or one of your assistants, remember, they have people for that. You ask them if someone can assist you to the clubhouse, get the photos if you're permitted to take photos there as well. You're selling a lifestyle. You're not just selling a home, and that's really extremely important. You will let your client know you will be there for every showing. It is your job as the listing agent to sell that home, and they're going to expect that from you. It's not having that agent go to CSS, get a lockbox combination, and go show the home. That's not what's going to be required on these properties. You will be present for those. That is a service you're going to give. That's one of the questions you would ask, how do we outshine another agent? There's one process right there. Some agents will have nothing to do with that. We want to make sure that when we're telling them we're servicing them all the way. So the other thing that you can do is you can have special invite open houses or brokers opens to where you are actually pulling in. You can send invitations to the HR departments of American, now I do a lot with American Greetings because when I'm selling high-priced homes in Westlake, their HR department is bringing people right into Westlake. So I will deal a lot with, big companies there. But as Audrey's talking about the clinic, and we're talking, don't forget, we do have that Cleveland Browns logo, guys. Use them. So you have to remember how many people, not just players, that they have coming in and out. So it's really, really important that we take a good look at, getting a hold of these people. And it's not hard. Google them. You can Google HR departments and get all the details that you need.
Sheehan, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had two questions now that she was explaining more. The one question, if you don't have a history in sales and all this thing, can you play up on maybe your office, saying I do have a relationship with people that have?
Or a team?
Well, if you're not a team.
Well, but you can always use like in our, we have a smaller office, maybe you can say, we have a team of good agents, we all get involved. I mean, do you agree with that, or?
I think that that's where you use your broker. I think
Or
you
use
say,
broker,
Russell has a niche group of luxury agents. We are all a team. I always use that. I use the Cleveland Browns a lot. When I'm working with other clients, you use what you have to use.
But I think, like she said, the biggest thing is to be prepared when you walk in the door with everything that they might possibly want from you. And in order to do that, what I always do is, and not just to the luxury clients, is send them the listing contract pages, anything that could speed up, and tell them, I know that your time is important. If you'd like to review these documents prior to our meeting, please feel free to highlight anything that you may have questions or concerns about, and we will address it at the meeting.
The other question was off what she had said, about know when they broke ground and know the layout of it. Where do you get that information?
Ask the seller if some of these homes that they probably built them themselves, they're proud. I mean, my sellers, we have 27 piles sunk into the ground, and he showed me schematics of all, he's very analytical. So I want that information. I said, that's great. Can you please provide me some copies, or can I leave this on so that when I do, show me where you're going to keep it, so when I come to do a showing, I can get it out ahead of time. So you can get a lot of that information from the sellers. Yes, go ahead. Right.
Jody,
Yes.
when you had that higher end property, and it's been on the market over a year, you've had several reductions. The house is now vacant. You've done all the videos and the everything else on it. You've had a very extensive open house. What do you do come spring? I'm planning to have now another open house. I have open houses every other weekend on the property for the buyers coming through. What can be done now?
So your home's been on the market for over a year. It's now vacant. Have they removed all the furnishing and the house is no longer staged? Is the home no longer staged? Did they remove all the...
Everything's vacant.
Okay. So one of the things that you're going to want to do is, if that's the case, is there any way that your seller will assist you in restaging some of the rooms of the home?
It's a huge house,
Okay.
huge.
And here's what this is what I've always suggested to my sellers in higher end homes. If they are going to move and take all the belongings out, we need to have a few of the rooms staged. The kitchen is the hub. We want to see that, possibly restaging kitchen, their main living room, their den, especially if they work at home, that's extremely important, and their master bedroom. If there's any way you can have your seller, so you can't hear me at all? I'm sorry. Okay, let me move this closer. So what I was saying, and I'll start over again.
No, I understand all that.
Okay.
But in this situation.
You don't have it. So in this situation,
Yeah.
what you're going to do, I don't advise you, and I don't know if you agree with me, I really don't advise you retaking photos of the house being empty. That is not a good picture whatsoever. So please don't do that. First of all, we don't want it online showing a very expensive home being empty. That's giving the wrong signal out there because people are watching. So leave the photos up that do show that the furnishings are still in. when you go in to do open houses, are you doing, now I don't do a lot of open houses on my luxury homes only because we are trying to capture a specific audience, not the looky-loos, not the people who are, we don't want that. And I'll tell you what, the sellers do not want that either. So if I do open houses, it might be one in the beginning and it might be a special invitation only afterwards.
On my situation, my buyer, or my seller rather, does want open houses.
Okay.
I have contacted corporations in the area to see if they want a more corporate home,
Okay.
and it's, I'm hitting a dead wall.
Yeah, unfortunately. How many showings are you getting on the property?
None.
Exactly.
I'm getting calls, a lot of calls, and a lot of calls from other states, but,
And that's most likely why the seller is probably insisting in an open house. Just so all of you know, when you take this listing, and that's why we encourage you to take it a year or longer, you might not get a showing in that time frame. And that sounds really bad, I know. But you have to remember, there's not $1 million buyer or a $2 million buyer hanging out on the street corner. They just, they're not produced like that. So.
well, at first I did have a number of people coming through that were buyers, active buyers in that price range. And everyone loves the house, thinks it's absolutely beautiful, thinks the property is out of this world. But it's propane, it's in an area of Medina that wouldn't normally have $1 million homes,
Okay.
and I end up getting a dead end.
And that unfortunately is kind of par for the course. So you know what the weaknesses are about the property. You're going to have to turn those into strengths. You're going to have to flip that. So
I'm gonna have to speed it up a little bit.
I'm sorry.
I just, because somebody had a question, we only have time for a couple
Oh,
more.
go ahead.
So I
Go
wanna
ahead.
really, I wanna focus, talk to her later on that. You had a question?
I did. I was just wondering whether in marketing these luxury homes, whether you've ever done any type of creative, like essentially creating a commercial. Not the virtual tour, but a more like selling the lifestyle kind of approach.
I used a drone video and then attached that to an interior video to sell. And then there was one where we did a GoPro video before Megan and Hunter came along. Believe me, I'm not as good as Megan is at video. But we did sell a lifestyle type video, interior only, of a property, and sent that out. I mean, it's on YouTube. It goes to the HR people. That's something that you can use everywhere.
Did you narrate it?
I did not. I used the music and typewritten words. I don't have the most. I'm not in show business. I sell real estate.
One more over here.
My question goes back to the leopard wallpaper in the bathroom. How do you deal with people who their ego is in what they have, and that doesn't mean they have good taste? How do you talk to somebody about that in that bracket,
Honestly, you have to be blunt. You have to tell them, well, it's lovely. And I love velvet, but not everybody does.
But what do you advise them to do?
Take it down.
Be neutral.
And do what? Just
They need to appeal to a wider variety of buyers, so neutralizing, just like you said.
Real quick, because we're down to a minute.
Isn't there a special website that Russell has available for the luxury homes? I'm not sure if everyone's aware. Isn't there like a sales leader website?
Do you know?
I'm not aware of it. You know it?
There is.
I don't think there is. but-
When we were doing advertising in the newspapers, we did have a luxury tab in there.
Yeah, we still do.
Okay. I'm gonna have to wrap this up, but thank you all. I want to thank the panelists for